So last night I went and saw the brand new How to Train Your Dragon movie. Now, I'm a big How to Train Your Dragon fan. I grew up on all three movies. The first movie came out back in 2010 when I was 6 years old, but I don't think I ever saw that one in theaters, but I do remember watching it on DVD. And that is how I discovered How to Train Your Dragon, was that we had the first movie on DVD. And then the second movie, I do remember I went and saw that one in the theater all the way back in 2014 when that movie came out. And then I think that movie is probably like my favorite DreamWorks movie, How to Train Your Dragon 2. And then the sequel, How to Train Your Dragon The Hidden World, came out in 2019 when I was around 14, I'm pretty sure, because it came out in February. So I would have been 14 at the time. And, I thought that movie was okay. I don't think that movie is bad by any means, but I wasn't really feeling it as much as the second movie or the first movie. It was just kind of a pretty good movie to me, in my opinion. But this live action version I was really anticipating because, like I said, How to Train Your Dragon is like one of my favorite movie franchises, so I was very much looking forward to this live action How to Train Your Dragon when it was announced because I wasn't really expecting it. What is going on with the top of my hair? I don't know. It's being weird. But I wasn't really expecting it to be announced right now. Like, I was kind of expecting maybe in like 2030 or something like that, we could get the, live action version of How to Train Your Dragon. But making it in 2025, 15 years after the first movie, seems kind of sudden if you think about it. But yeah, overall, I did enjoy this movie. I think it did live up to the hype, and that is because it is mostly the same movie. I mean, it's not entirely the same. There are some scenes that are either changed from the animated movie, like characters will say different things, or the scene from the animated movie will be extended in live action, or it'll be removed from the live action version and things like that. So, because the animated movie is around an hour and 45 minutes, while the live action version is 2 hours and 6 minutes. Because, like I said, some scenes are longer, and then there's some new scenes that weren't in the animated movie. So, yeah, anyways, let's move on now talking about the characters of this movie. And I think we'll start off with Mason Thames as Hiccup. And I did enjoy Mason Thames as Hiccup because one of the original casting choices for Hiccup was Jack Dylan Grazer. I don't really know if that is true or not, but that is like a rumor that Jack Dylan Grazer was in like the running for Hiccup. And I don't really know how I feel about that casting because a part of me thinks that casting could be pretty okay because I did like Jack Dylan Grazer in Shazam, and I'm pretty sure he was in Onward as well. No, what's that one Pixar movie he was in? Oh, no, not Onward. It was in Luca that he was in. I thought he was pretty good in that movie. And also, like I mentioned, Shazam, I thought he was pretty good in that movie too. So I feel like he would have been a pretty good Hiccup. He's also got that like curly hair kind of vibe that Hiccup has. Although his hair is naturally curly, so I don't really know how he would look in the first movie. He might look kind of weird. But I'm glad they went with Mason Thames as Hiccup because he is closer to Hiccup's age in the first movie. Because Hiccup in the first movie, I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be like 15. Mason Thames is like 17, something like that. So that is a good that they got, or that is good that they got that casting age correct. But Astrid, she's like, the actress that plays Astrid is like 20, I'm pretty sure. So that's kind of a strange age gap there. He's got Nico Parker, who's like 20, and I got Mason Thames, who's like 17. So it's kind of strange that Astrid is 3 years older than Hiccup, but it didn't really matter because they all looked pretty much around the same age in the movie. Another thing that I enjoyed that I didn't really think I would or know if I would enjoy or not is Nico Parker as Astrid, because originally when the casting was announced back in, I think it was like towards the end of 2023 when the casting was announced for the live action movie, and it said that Nico Parker was going to be Astrid, and I was like, oh, come on. Like, you could have maybe casted someone a bit different, but I felt like they just cast her because of The Last of Us and how that was like a very popular TV show. But yeah, overall, I was not really much of a fan of the casting at first. But over time, it did grow on me more and more, and I did eventually come to accept it and be like, all right, we're not getting another actress. This is going to be who's playing Astrid, so I guess I'll just have to accept it. And then, the trailers started coming out, and I was like, okay, that was pretty good. They do seem like they're pretty good as their characters. And then the official trailer came out, and that trailer was kind of, eh. But overall, I was growing more on Nico Parker as Astrid, and then by the time I saw the movie, I think she did a pretty solid job, and I don't really see who else could have played Astrid more than she could, because she still kind of does have that same energy as Astrid, although not really like as aggressive. Well, I mean, yeah, she was still pretty much aggressive, and I do think all the characters that they casted, like Gabriel Howell as Snotlout, was pretty good. They added this weird thing with Snotlout in the movie, in this new live action movie, and that is the fact that his dad, Spitelout, just despises him for some reason. Because there's a moment in the beginning, like after the dragons like take the food and everything and leave, Snotlout's all like, "Oh, my dad's super proud of me, right, Dad?" And his dad just says, "Don't talk to me in public," and that got a pretty good laugh out of me. I did like that. But yeah, that wasn't Spylo wasn't really a character in the animated movies, but in this live action version, he's a lot more of a prominent character. He's kind of like a Stoic's, what would you say, second in command? You know, like every we're not. I guess Gobber would kind of be like that, but Gobber's just more of like a friend to Stoic. But Spitelout is more of kind of like that second in command because whenever Stoic would be like on a mission or something, Spitelout would be next to him. So yeah, he's a lot more of a prominent character in the live action version compared to the animated movies. Because in the animated movies, he's kind of just like in the background, but in the live action version, he plays a lot more of a part in that movie. So yeah, I did think he was pretty good. And then by the end of the movie, Spitelout accepts Snotlout as his son, and it's kind of a heartfelt moment because he's just been trash talking him the entire movie. So that was kind of strange, but also funny. And then everyone's just kind of mean to Snotlout because during the trial of Flame is what they referred to the dragon training as. Because in the animated movie they just referred to it as dragon training, but in the live action version they referred to it as the trial of Flame. And basically, there's this one scene during that part where Snotlout's looking at Hiccup and he's like, "Oh, Hiccup, huh? That's kind of a strange name." And then Hiccup just looks at Snotlout and he's like, "Your name is Snotlout. Like, you should not be talking." And I just didn't really understand why everyone just had to be so mean to him. It was kind of funny, but also kind of sad at the same time. Yeah, anyways, who are some of the other characters? There's Julian Dennison, I'm pretty sure his name, who plays Fish Legs in this movie. I thought he did do a pretty funny job because, when they're during the dragon training, when they're fighting the dragons, Fish Legs is like, "I'm really beginning to question your teaching methods." I thought that was pretty funny, especially in the live action version. So yeah, and then you got Harry Trevaldwin as Tough Nut, who I thought did a pretty good job, and they got Branwyn Jones, who played Rough Nut, who I thought did a pretty alright job, and then you got Gerard Butler, of course, back as Stoic, who sounds, of course, just like he did in the animated movie, because he's played by the same actor and everything. And the way they transition Stoic from animated to live action, I thought was pretty solid. What is going on with my hair? I don't know. It's kind of being a bit weird today. Yeah, I did like the way that Stoic was played by Gerard Butler, just like he was in the animated movie. I thought he did a pretty nice job. I don't really know who else you could have casted as Stoic, so that's probably why they went with Gerard Butler. And then you had Nick Frost as Gobber, who I think probably was like the weakest, I would say, out of the all the cast members because I wasn't really feeling Gobber as much as everyone else. That sounds kind of weird out of context. Yeah, anyways, his lines was kind of off to me because it kind of felt like he was just reading off of a script. It didn't really come across as natural like some of the other characters in the movie. So I feel like he maybe could have, done a bit better on that part. But overall, I didn't think he was terrible. So or I didn't think he was terrible. But yeah, overall, I would give this movie like a 7 out of 10. I thought it was pretty nice. And the way Astrid and Hiccup kind of like become friends in this movie felt super sudden compared to the animated movie. But I guess it also kind of felt a little bit sudden in the animated movie. So I guess it's not really much of a difference because they're enemies at one point because she literally hits him in the stomach with the axe, and then like 5 seconds or like 5 minutes later she's friends again or friends with him. So yeah, in the animated movie, she doesn't really have a reason to hate Hiccup. She just kind of hates him for the sake of hating him. Every time he would like hit on her and everything, she'd always be like, "Ugh," and just like brush him off. In the live action version, she kind of has a bit more of a reason to hate him. So it's kind of even more strange that she just suddenly likes him by the end of the movie. Because she literally says, "Oh, you're the son of the chief, so I don't really like you all that much." So yeah, I guess that's more of a reason because, like I said, in the animated movie, she doesn't really have a reason to hate him. She just hates him. for some reason. But in the live action version, she dislikes him because he's the son of the chief, and so she thinks he gets like privileges and stuff, and that is why they think that he's in the Trial of Flame with the other kids because he's the son of the chief and all that. So yeah. But overall, I did enjoy this movie. I wish they would have maybe changed up some more stuff because it's kind of just the same movie. But I guess that's also not really a bad thing because it's a pretty good movie at the end of the day, especially the music. Music during the scene or during the movie went absolutely hard. That is like probably the best part about this movie is that the music went crazy, especially during the final battle where they're facing off against the Green Death, I'm pretty sure is what that dragon's name is. You know, like the queen dragon that has like the multiple eyes and everything. Pretty sure it's called the Green Death. I did like the music that was playing during that scene in the live action film. So, yeah, overall, I guess I can't really complain about this movie because I did enjoy it. And they've already announced a sequel for the live action version that's coming out June 11th, 2027. So, hopefully when the live action sequel rolls around, they change up some more stuff because we're probably going to get a live action trilogy. So, if they just kind of make the same movie for each movie, then it's kind of like, what's the point? So hopefully by the time the second movie rolls around, they change up some more stuff and add in some more stuff because I did like the stuff when they added in new stuff. I did enjoy that. When they were kind of just saying what was happening in the original, it kind of felt a bit off to me. You know what I'm saying? It didn't really feel natural. But when they're adding new stuff in there, I did enjoy that. Like when they're saying lines that weren't in the animated movie, I did like that stuff. So yeah, there's also characters that weren't in the animated movie, like Spyla, and then there's some other characters whose names I don't really remember, but those characters are also in the live action version, and I do think that they did a pretty good job with the extra characters that they added on into this movie. So yeah, overall, like I said, I would give this movie like a 7 out of 10. I thought it was pretty nice. So yeah, you guys let me know if you have seen the live action How to Train Your Dragon and what you guys thought of it. And if you think that, what's the point of making a live action movie if it's just the same movie? Because like I said, pretty much everything that happens in the animated movie happens in the live action movie. Like you got Hiccup at the start of the movie doing his monologue thing, and then he shoots down Toothless, and then he goes to kill Toothless, but then he doesn't decide to kill Toothless, and then you see their friendship form. And I do like that. And also, I don't know if it was just me, but it seems like Toothless's design was slightly tweaked from the trailers because in the trailers he looked exactly like he did in the animated movie, just with like live or just like realistic textures. But in the movie itself, I feel like they might have changed it a little bit because it didn't really come off as uncanny as it did in the trailers than in the actual movie. So maybe they did some like adjustments to Toothless's design because it did look slightly different than in the trailers. And oh Jesus, I had something in my mouth there. And also, the dragons in the live action version, I thought looked pretty dang nice because the other dragons, aside from Toothless, like, the Deadly Natters, the Monstrous Nightmares, the Gronkles, and the Zipplebacks, and the other dragons, because I do mention the other dragons outside of those like four dragons, because they mentioned like Skrills, and then they mentioned like Timberjacks and things like that. So yeah, but we never actually see any of those other dragons. I maybe would have liked to have seen like a Skrill or something like that because those are a pretty cool dragon because they have like the thunder effect, so I would have liked to see that. But yeah, overall, the dragons, aside from Toothless, they looked really nice because they were like completely different designs. Pretty similar to what they looked like in the animated movie, but like live actionified, if that makes sense. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a pretty good movie, and I'm very much looking forward to the second movie that's coming out in 2027. 2027 is looking a stacked year for movies. You got How to Train Your Dragon 2, and then you got Beyond the Spider-Verse, you got The Batman Part 2, you got Avengers Secret Wars coming out that year, and then you got some other ones that don't really come to mind. But yeah, 2027 is like a crazy year for movies, so I'm very much looking forward to that year. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this video. We are only 96 subscribers away from 700. We are at 604. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe, and you guys can let me know what you thought of the live action How to Train Your Dragon. And another random off-topic thing, but my capture card I mentioned in my Nintendo Switch unboxing, I mentioned that it didn't really work, and that's because no matter what I tried to do, it like wouldn't connect to like my computer. like it wouldn't show like the game I was playing or anything like that. So I went ahead and bought a new capture card. It is this thing right here. I went ahead and bought this because it was only like 70 bucks, and it finally showed up like yesterday. I'm pretty sure, or it might have been 2 days ago. But this showed up recently, so I went ahead and tried to connect it and everything, and I wouldn't really connect. But then I plugged my old capture card back into my PS5, and it worked for some reason. Like it turned on and everything was fine. So there's a new Five Nights at Freddy's game that comes out tomorrow that I can probably play for you guys on the channel. So that is probably what you can look forward to next is my gameplay of Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. So yeah, you guys can look forward to that. And I think that is going to wrap it up for this video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.